Hi students, I am Patodia from IIT Roorkee and I am associated with askIITians as IIT Maths Associate Consultant from last 2 years. Today we are going to study about sequence and series, and this topic will be covered in several parts, and each part will be concluded by a question which will help us in getting the concepts cleared. So I hope you will like my lecture, and let us start with the first part. Let us first have a look at contents of the topic which we are going to see in the subsequent parts. So for any journey, if we break it into part, it becomes quite easy to understand the things. So as you can see, we will first see introduction, in which we will get ourselves familiar with what a sequence, what are series, and what are progressions. In the next thing, we will be studying those things in detail, the types of sequences, which consist of arithmetic, geometric, and we will also see that these three are the parts of which these two form the foundation, and the questions will be right from these three topics. So these two we will concentrate on building the concepts, and these three parts we will see that how the questions in JEE will come. So in introduction we need to know that what are sequence. As the first we need to understand the name of the chapter itself, sequence and series. So quite often we will come across these terms. So what is sequence? Sequence is any succession of numbers in which there is a rule according to which we can find a pattern. For example, sequence of prime numbers. So in this we can see that all the numbers which are belonging to this sequence are prime numbers. So prime numbers is the definite rule which has to be followed by each term of this sequence. Now what is the difference between a sequence and progression? A very thin line of a difference between sequence and progression. In a progression, every term has a definite pattern. Now what is the difference between definite rule and definite pattern? Definite rule, we were talking about some kind of rule, and when we talk about a definite pattern, it means in addition to that rule we can search for a pattern, or if I talk in a very layman language, we can express each term in terms of previous term or its position value. For example, if we look this series carefully, so this is nothing but 1 square, 2 square, 3 square, 4 square, and so on. So can we see that the place value of this term and the value of this term, so it can be correlated. If I am gonna take a general term, we will see what a general term is. So if we talk about the nth term, so we can clearly write nth term explicitly. How? We know that the position and the value are related as whatever be the position, the value will be squared of that. What do I mean by position? So this is first term, so this is first position. So at first position the term is 1 square, at second position this is 2 square. So for nth term we can write it as n square. So in sequence it's not necessary that we can explicitly express the position and the value correlatedly, but in a progression we can define a function such that the value of each term can be known by a suitable replacement with its position. Means we can express the value with the help of its position. In this case it's n square, okay, and series. So progression in these two parts, they are just the succession of numbers, but when we call it a series, we apply the operation of addition or subtraction to the terms of the sequence. For example, if we have written the first sequence as a series, so we would have written 2 plus 3 plus 5. So this it's no longer a sequence. This becomes a series of prime numbers. Okay, and as given here, this is again a series of even numbers, if I say. So in this you can see that if we would have written this like 2, 4, 6, 8, so this would have been a progression. Why? Because can you see a pattern here now that this term is twice of its place value. By place value I means the position. This is again twice of that. So if I write nth term here, so it will be 2n, and don't worry, we will see that how do we form the nth terms. So you just need to at this point of time understand that we are correlating the position with the value, with the formula or with the function. Okay, and as written at the bottom we can see that the term at the nth place is known as general term, which I have already mentioned. So for any sequence or any series, so basically we will be concentrating more on this. So for any sequence or any series, we will be seeing that the Tn or the nth term is quite important in solving the questions. Why? Because if we can derive this, if we can get this, so other operations can be formed according to this. Basically this Tn gives us a function, so that if we put the place value, for example if I put 1 in that, so it will give me the first term. If I put 2 in that, it will give me a second term. For example, if I write Tn as 2n plus 1, so this represents a term of a series or a progression in which the general term is represented by this. So let us now, and one thing key to note here is that this n will always be a natural number. Keep in mind that you cannot have a zeroth term. The terms always start from the first term, second term, third term, and so on. So keep in mind that this n should always be a natural number. So if I want to now write this progression, so how will I write? So first term will be 2 into 1 plus 1, second term will be 2 into 2 plus 1, and so on. So you can clearly see that this will be 3, 5, next will be 7, and so on. So this was a brief introduction about what we are going to do, and the importance of this Tn is that we can construct whole progression or series using this Tn, and this will be helpful in subsequent parts, as you will see. So this was all about the introduction, in which we saw the contents, the various topics which we are going to cover, plus the terminologies which will help us to know the better sequence and series. So stay tuned for the next parts. We will see the arithmetic progression in the next part.